Well, hey friends, how's everybody out there in YouTube land? I thought I would do an update, something I haven't done in a while, a couple months at least, here on my sailing plan channel. And I'm tangled up here. Hold on a second. Got my headphones all messed up. There we go. Yeah. So here's the thing. I wanted to touch base on some changes, some fundamental changes going on that's going to affect all of the sailing genre YouTubers. In fact, it's going to affect a lot of YouTubers, not just people in the sailing genre, although that being my first concern, first love, I wanted to address it. Recently, we saw a post by Cruising Latitudes, and in this he was talking about what's going on with the other cruisers in the sailing genres and what's happening with them. And let me get over here where you can see me. There we go. Cruising Latitudes is a fairly new YouTube channel in the cruising genre, and he's a guy that does ship deliveries, and he's taken a whole different approach than everybody else. Rather than do like a travel vlog or a blog about what he's doing on a day-to-day basis, he posts a lot of content about other channels and what's happening with those other channels, and he's a bit of a doomsayer, which, don't get me wrong, is probably a necessary thing at this point. But he keeps posting about how all these cruising channels are going out of business. They're ceasing and desisting from sailing, and I think he's legitimately trying to give people good guidance for their own protection and safety, and maybe that's kind of why I'm doing this video. So you guys will hear from me. I've got a long established background in the sailing genre at this point. I mean, I've been on this road since the mid 90s, actually, trying to do before internet. My ex-wife Penny and I had a sailing cruising show on regular TV on Versus, rather, which is now NBC Sports. I don't know what it is, something else now, but back when Versus was on national TV, we had a show that aired on nationwide television. And the thing of it is, and what I'm trying to get to with everybody is, Cruising Latitudes is a bit of a doomsday sayer, but he does have some truths, and I don't think he understands really what's going on. Yes, it's very difficult to be able to do a cruising channel. You have to be funded enough to go for at least a full year of creating content before you build an audience big enough to support you. And even then, if you're not putting out, super top quality content, if you're not showing a lot of TNA, you don't have a bunch of young girls on deck all the time, deck bluff, your channel will grow slowly. I mean, Delos grew to become a large YouTube channel, one of the largest ones, much because the girls would be on deck topless, and all these guys would be, oh my God, there's a naked titty. And the same you could say about La Vagabond. When La Vagabond started, she would be out on deck showing a lot of TNA and dressing provocatively and in bikinis and what have you. And so a lot of people were following La Vagabond for the same reason. In fact, the only channel that really didn't follow that, TNA route was probably Gone with the Winds. They are a completely different aspect, but a lot of these channels got their start that way. Even a lot of the newer channels that are out now, it's a lot of bikini shots. Bob from Sailing Doodles, TNA is what's made his channel, what continues his channel. It's why he's one of the largest channels out there, because people like seeing the TNA. Now, what they've done is they've taken the content they've made and they've gotten people to go over to a Patreon account and donate to Patreon, where You put in, 2, 3, 5, 10, 50, whatever amount of money you want. Every time they load a video, you're contributing to the creation of that video. So some of our large channels that we have are people like, let me bring them up here if I can. You've got Gone with the Winds. Interesting that they've just bought a new boat and are having problems with their new boat. It's a brand new design that's all electric, and it's having some huge technical problems that are causing them some severe issues. We have Bob from Sailing Doodles is now putting out content where he's got a new boat that he's coming out with, and again, it's highly technical and electric. And so we're anticipating that there's going to be some big issues with that. We also know that Delos is building a new boat, and I expect there's going to be some issues with that one. I'm particularly concerned with the way he's running the electric in this all electric, all aluminum catamaran. I think it's a death trap. I really do. I think he's going to create some real issues for himself with that. But, what do I know? I just have a little background in electrical engineering. So I have some concerns about that. Then we go on to boats like La Vagabond. They're obviously, the news is all about them having had an accident with their trimaran that they have. A design that I thought was a mistake, but nonetheless, they have a trimaran they're selling over in Japan, and having some issues with it. Now, the thing about all these people that has me concerned is that there's been some changes happening now. There's some pretty big changes going on that are going to affect all these guys, almost without exclusion. All of these guys that I've shown you, plus a bunch more, are out there on brand new boats or financed boats where they have big mortgages, big loans. Some of these guys are spending, $1, $2, $3 million on a boat just because they had some success with the boat they started out with originally. They wanted something bigger and better. They had the income coming in, so they went out and accrued a whole lot of debt with these boats. And my concern is that they're no longer going to be able to afford these. And let me explain to you why. There's been a recent change at Patreon. Now, Patreon, as we've said here, is the main way that these people are getting their income. They're not getting paid much by YouTube anymore. Used to be, but not anymore. Patreon or YouTube has really cut back on how much these people make. In fact, if you go to Social Blade and you start looking up these channels on Social Blade, you'll see that some of them are really cut way back from what they were doing in the past. And so everyone's relying on Patreon to fund what they're doing. And, that's the thing that the guy from Cruising Latitudes was, support us on Patreon. You've seen that all over the place. Well, the problem with that is that this new change that's happened as a result of some changes at Patreon. In order for Patreon to be listed on the Apple app for getting new apps, if you have to go on your iPhone, iPod, you go to the App Store, right, which is owned by Apple, and you download an app. And so if you're a cruising channel, any one of these cruising channels, and you advertise, hey, check us out on Patreon, people go to Patreon. As a new person, goes over to Patreon. And when the charges are done, they're done through that app. You get located to that app. You download that app through Apple. Apple is now requiring a fee, 30%, and limiting the creators. There used to be two ways to do it. You could do it where people pay on a per creation basis, which means if you're donating $2 every time I post a video, and I post one video a month, I make $2. If I post 4 videos a month, then I make 4 times that, right? I'll make $8. And you multiply that by a few thousand people, and that's how these guys are surviving, is because they collect all that money every time they post content. The harder they work, the more content they post, the better they are. Most of these creators are now down to doing a once a week, 4 times a month, so they get paid 4 times every month. What Apple is requiring now is that you can no longer do a per creation fee structure. You have to do a monthly subscription. So what these creators need to do, people like myself with YouTube channels, we need to have our patrons change their spending from, instead of doing $2 every time I post a video, to just doing an $8 a month subscription. That's going to shake the trees and knock a lot of people out. That's going to knock a lot of people out. And then in addition to that, with Apple taking a 30% cut, I think that's going to break the bank. I really do. I have severe reservations. And so a lot of these existing guys with these big boat payments are going to find a huge cut in their income and aren't going to be able to afford it. I think you're going to see a lot of the big channels fold. I really do. I think you're going to see a lot of creators fold, period. But I do think a lot of these guys that have gone and incurred this great big amount of debt with the anticipation that they've got 10, 20 years of good earnings ahead of them, I think this change by Apple is really going to skew the card up, and we're going to have some real financial problems down the road. Real financial problems. I also am concerned with the new creators that are coming on board, the people that, haven't done their due diligence, don't have a clue what they're doing. Oh, isn't this great? Look at these people. They're buying boats, living in the Bahamas and making tons of money and can afford to go out and buy brand new $1 million boats. Everyone must be making a ton of money. Boy, I'm going to go do that. Well, the reality of it is that boat left the dock. That's not going to be possible to do that anymore, not like it was 10, 8, 6, 5 years ago. Today it's going to be much more difficult for those people because they're not only not getting paid the large amounts that all these channels that I showed used to make when they were just collecting from YouTube, but now they've lost that YouTube income and they made it up with Patreon, and now that Patreon is shrinking. A 30% loss, and you have to roll everybody over to a monthly subscription instead of a per creation. That's going to have a huge economic impact to everybody. So I wanted to get on here and do a little bit of an article about that, give you guys some perspective and what my thinking is. And of course, I'm very concerned. I have very specific goals about what it is I want to do going forward, and this change is going to greatly impact my ability to do that. Now, I have worked a workaround, so I'm comfortable with what I'm going at, but I'm going to go about things in a much more conservative fashion. Now, one of the reasons why I'm not out sailing right now, which I could be, I had a boat, I sold it, is because I'm building up a bank. I'm putting together a cruising kitty and reorganizing my plans some right. So I'm doing the dirt work right now and getting it organized and getting it made, and it's growing. I'm not going to go into any great detail about how I'm doing that or what's going on because there's too many idiots still out there. But suffice it to say, things are looking pretty good, and that I anticipate being able to buy a boat and get on board. Right now, I'm thinking it's going to be sometime mid-late summer, early fall, certainly before the end of hurricane season. So by hurricane season, I hope to be up and running and going when hurricane season's over in, November, December. But I hoping to be on a boat, come August, July, August, September, something like that. That's my goal. So I'm giving you a little bit of my time frame right now. What am I looking to do? Well, let me show you. What I am thinking about doing is something conservative. This is a Beneteau 361, 36-foot monohull. I can buy this boat all day long for 50 grand. All day long. There's a bunch of them for sale right now. If you get on Yacht World and look up Beneteaus, well, let me get on YachtTube and do that. I just happen to have it fired up here. If I can get it to come to the front. Why is it coming to the front? Okay. Well, maybe I can't get it to come to the front. I thought I could. Nope. Hold on one more time. There we go. All right. So here is my most recent musings around on Yacht World. This is now let me go back here. So we've got a 2003 Beneteau Oceanus Clipper 361. She's 36 feet long. As you can see here, she's got in mast furling. She's got a Dodger. She's got dinghy davits. She's just a halfway decent plastic boat. Nothing spectacular. Currently listed at $58,900. You can buy this boat for $50,000. I would be surprised if I couldn't buy this boat for $50,000. And there's a lot of them. In fact, I've seen some pretty decent Beneteaus, a little smaller than this, for as low as $30,000. So you can, for, 1/4 of the house of an average price in America, you can buy yourself a decent sized little boat. Now, this boat's big enough for 2 people. It is. It's not huge, but it's big enough for 2 people. Okay. So let me go ahead and move through here. There's what you'd be looking at structure wise. You give it about a 20% down payment on that, and at the current interest rates that they're looking at right now, 7.12 is not a bad interest rate for this. And let me just address that for a minute. I'm going to jump over here to another section on my pooter. You won't be able to see what I'm looking at right here, but that's okay. You don't need to look at it. I'm just going to try to read you some of the research that I've been doing, just so people have a bit of a perspective. So, everyone talks about, going out and these people are buying these huge, expensive boats, and, no one ever really deals with the reality of what does it take to buy this? I mean, how do you do this? Okay. You can go get a boat loan, and boat loans are going to start at $100,000. They're not even going to let you look at a boat unless you're easily in the $100,000 price range. But if you take a little bit of the nonsense out of your dream and start facing a little bit of reality, let me give you some stuff that I've been researching and what I've found. If you go to like a credit union or a local bank, your bank that you've been dealing with for years, or a local credit union, if you have the intelligence to join a local credit union and get in good with them. Credit union that I actually have my truck financed through right now, my auto loan, they also will do boat loans. So here's what their requirements are, because this is the bread and butter of this, right? If you want to buy that Beneteau 36, so you can get on a boat and you can get in the water and you can get going, they require a 581 credit score. Now, this is not your credit score that you see on Credit Karma. This is your actual credit score. You're going to have to go to the three big ones. I think Experian is the one they put the most value in. So you want a solid 581 minimum. That's your minimum. If your credit score is between 581 and 599, you can buy a boat in the $20,000 to $50,000 range with 20% of a down payment, 96 months to pay at 11.7% interest. Yes, it's high interest, but that's what these loans are at. So 8 years, 96 months, 8 years of payment, $643.54 a month is the payment on a $50,000 boat at 11.7% over 8 years. You have an 8-year note. So that's the reality of it, okay? You can buy a $50,000 boat for $643 a month, but you're going to have to come up with, for $50,000 boat, you're going to need $10,000 as a down payment. So you're really only financing $40,000, okay? Now, if your credit score is better than that, you get better terms and conditions. For example, if you have a 640 to 679 credit score, they only require 15% down. They give you 144 months to pay, in other words, 12 years. And they only so 50% would be $7,500 instead of $10,000 down, and your payment would be reduced to $550 a month. So there's some real advantages if you have better credit scores, but you could get started at 581. So here's the bare bones, and this is the goals that I have for myself. I need $10,000 for the down payment, 20% of $50,000. I need the ability to pay $645 a month at infinitum for the next 8 years. And I'm a go. And I have to have a 581 credit score. So those are the goals that I've been working towards, the bare bones minimum, if you'll pardon my perspective. That's what I'm working towards right now. I have delusions of grandeur of, I'd like to have a Lagoon 440 or, a Bennett, a big 450 or all these other catamarans and stuff that would be lovely to have, and they really, truly would be. But do not put yourself in a position where your income is going to get diminished because it's out of your control. And that's what's happening with a lot of these channels. They figured Patreon just going to continue doing what it does, and now all these people are going to be in real trouble. Will somebody else step up and do something else similar to Patreon? Well, that seems to be what's going on. There's a lot of that happening. I know Bob at Selling Doodles is experimenting with different options, different opportunities, and I'm sure some of those will get developed with time. Whether people go to a PayPal thing, or even on YouTube, you can do a YouTube membership, but that's still, they take a large percentage. They do. So a lot of these creators are trying to find ways where you can, have people support your channel, where you actually are getting the money, not all these other agencies. Because the more of these people you get involved in it, the more difficult it becomes and the less safe your business model is. And that's what this conversation is kind of all about today, is business model. So that's kind of my plan. This is my warning that I want to give everybody about what's happening with Patreon. Big red flag there. A bit of my plans of what I'm working towards and what I intend on doing. And then, the other thing is some of you may or may not be aware. I'm always frustrated when I see all these people on sailboats sailing around the world, and all they ever make content about is, oh, look at us fixing this, that, and the other thing in some exotic port. Oh, woe is me. I've got a $2 million catamaran, but my ice maker's broken. Well, I got a comment for you guys. Yeah, bafangu. As the Italians would say. It just blows my mind to listen to somebody complain about how rough their life is because they got to fix this, that, and the other thing on a $2 billion boat. Oh, poor baby. I'll file a fiddle for you, whatever. No sympathy for these people at all. Not when you have the opportunity to be able to get something, off of here, and you start looking at, some of these boats. Let me go back to, I think, right about here. Let me hit play here, and it's going to show you some of the pictures. Okay. So go back there, okay, showing right up there. It's got anchor windlass, important thing, decent diesel motor, oil or filters system for it, wheel steering, not a tiller, well set up, got proper winches, good navigation, cruise control, comfortable seating, big wide doors I can get my fat butt through. I can get in the bathroom, I can get in the bedroom up front. That lounge there on the left is probably where I'm going to sleep most of the time. You got a nice U-shaped galley here to keep yourself in it and be comfortable. Yeah, see, that's where I would sleep, right on that bench there. Even though you've got the V-berth in the front, that's where I would be spending most of my time. Got this weird rainbow. I got to go back to that. Hold on a minute. Come on. There we go. Right there. Yeah, I'm not into the whole rainbow. I would want people having misunderstandings as to my preferences in life, but I do like the fact they have a dinghy here. They put chaps on it. A lot of people will swear off PVC dinghies, which are less expensive than the others, because they don't hold up well in the tropics because of the heat. Well, you can sew up some chaps like this that go over the top of your dinghy and protect it from the UV light, and then make that PVC last quite a bit longer. So just an idea. But at $50,000, this boat's coming with a dinghy and an outboard. So you're turnkey. You're absolutely turnkey with this boat at $60,000, right? So, and it's got everything you want. You've got the in-mast furling, you've got anchor windlasses. There you go. There's the in-mast furling shown. I'm not usually a big fan of that, but it works if it works. Got a nice Dodger and bimini protect you from the sun and the rain and the spray. Go back up. It's got a relatively short keel, so you're not drafting a lot of water, so you can get into places in the Bahamas and what have you with relative ease. I mean, this is a beautiful, comfortable, well-equipped, well-set-up boat. It's got some solar panels up over the Dodger. You can take the time to read through all this if you want. But to me, the biggest negative with this is the engines have 3,000 hours on that. And, the rule of thumb when I do those hours is I take a look at that and I say, okay, well, if I have 3,000 hours and I divide that by 50, well, let me clear my thing here, 3,000 divided by 55. So that's the equivalent of, no, that would be the other way around. I'm sorry, 3,000 times 55. There you go. That'd be like having 165,000 miles on those engines. 3,000 hours at 55 miles an hour is the calculation that I like to do. So the diesel engine in this thing is pretty well shot, but it's still working and still doing just fine. It's a diesel. It's only got 165,000 miles on it. Now, for a gas engine, that sounds like, wow, that's a lot of miles. But on a diesel engine, that's nothing. My Ford Excursion, I sold it with 400,000 miles on it. It was a diesel. You can get 1 million miles out of a diesel. So, it's not abnormal for these engines to maybe go as high as 12 or 15,000 hours. So it's broken, but it's not broke. It's not done. It's got a long ways to go. So there you have it, friends. That's kind of my little rant for the day. It's kind of what I wanted to bring up to you guys and discuss, is that I'm anticipating some real problems coming up with Patreon. I'm going to try to keep you guys abreast as how that develops. For those of you that are thinking of doing the same kind of thing and going out there and boy, I'm going to go buy a boat, and I'm going to be Delos, or I'm going to be Vagabond, or I'm going to be Bob from Sailing Doodles. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. I don't care if you've got a whole saloon full of young, well endowed females to come on and be deck fluff for you. The numbers still are going to be what they're going to be. And the fact is, right now, YouTube doesn't pay worth a damn. They don't. Yeah, you can get on a program called Social Blade. You enter the name of the channel, and it'll give you their expected earnings. It gives you usually a range. It's between X and Z, or A and Z. Usually it's closer to the Z. The actual figures I find are, somewhere closer to the larger number that they give. It's not the larger number, but it's usually about 75-80% of the larger number. So, and when you look at that and you see how little some of these guys are actually getting paid, it's not the kind of, it's probably enough money that they can afford food, fuel, and marinas and continue cruising on a, maybe $50,000 or $60,000 a year budget. But it's not enough to go out and incur a debt on a couple $1 million catamaran and the maintenance and upkeep, because that is, again, 10 or 20% of whatever the boat costs is how much you have to expect to pay every year in upkeep. So just a little tale of woe and a little insight, and some of my thinking, where I'm at, and a little bit of my timeline. So there you go. There's a big update on my channel, what's going on in the world. Give me some thoughts. Get in the comments section. Tell me your thoughts about this. Like, subscribe, ring, ding, ding the bell so you get more notifications. I am, I know I said this before, but between now and August, I'm going to post, I'm hoping at least one a month, maybe a little more, little updates along the way so you can see how things are progressing. And we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Give us a thumbs up, friends. Thanks.